You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on AngryMarks.com with Peter H. and Stevie J. Find them on Twitter at HardcoreCDN and at AngryMarks. And now, for all the news, reviews, and interviews in mixed martial arts, it's time for Glove Up or Shut Up from AngryMarks.com.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Glove Up or Shut Up right here on AngryMarks.com. My name is Peter H. I'm joined once again by my co-host from Omaha, Nebraska, Stevie J.
And we have a new UFC flyweight champion of the world.
Yeah, we do indeed. We'll talk about that huge fight and hell, the huge show that happened this past weekend. And we've got some news to talk about, including Bellator announcing the matchups for their welterweight Grand Prix. But Stevie, we mentioned on the show last week that streaks, they don't last forever. And I'll admit, I didn't think Cejudo was the guy to do it, but damn, that was a close fight. And judging by the scorecards, only the second round was the only one they disagreed on.
Yeah, well, that was the round that was definitely the closest, that depending on whether you care about takedowns or strikes, it could go either way.
And we always say never leave it to the judges. And I don't think that was DJ's plan to let it go to the judges. I think he wanted to win this fight, and Cejudo was up to the challenge. And, geez, he didn't waste any time calling out people at the post-fight, did he?
No, not one bit.
So, let's start with the co-main event. We'll touch on the main after, and then we'll continue with the rest of the card. But just to recap, Cejudo beating DJ for the championship in a split decision, 48-47, 48-47, and 47-48. Very, very close fight.
Some people are calling it the best flyweight fight in UFC history.
If not, it's in the conversation. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Top 5, I would say, at the very least.
Yeah, I'm in a weird camp on this one where if I'm DJ, I want a rematch. If I'm Cejudo, he called out Dillashaw. He wants a champion versus champ fight. I don't know about that one.
My advice to the young man would be, you just won a world title, stay in your lane. He hasn't been around this sport long enough to be calling out champions in other weight classes. I think that's a little premature.
Yeah, your name's not Anderson Silva. Just slow down a little bit.
Exactly. You're not Daniel Cormier, all right? And you didn't even dominate DJ. You won a very close split decision. It's not like you can go out there and coast on your laurels because you did a cakewalk through the former champion. You squeaked by.
I had a feeling that there was something wrong with DJ in one of the early rounds, and I was like, something's off. Something isn't quite DJ. And turns out I was right. He said he heard a pop. He thinks he heard his LCL.
Well, he might have done something, but it didn't stop him from connecting with Henry Cejudo's head on numerous occasions with his hands and his feet.
No, absolutely not. And we've talked about knee injuries, especially LCLs in the past. That basically is the house for the kneecap and all the ligaments. You bust the house, the whole leg is buggered. And for him to come out in that performance, like we talk about wrestling on the show a lot, to steal a phrase from the Briscoes, he manned up.
I really didn't see any weakness in Henry Cejudo. Demetrius Johnson. Now, I guess I would say I did see a weakness in Henry Cejudo now that I put it that way, because his inability to block some of the power shots that DJ was throwing at him was troubling, and that's why he had to keep going back to the well with the wrestling.
See, I thought the power shots weren't at max power.
I don't know.
He was getting tagged. But it wasn't like the knockout part we've seen. Like that knee, there was something. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm going insane. But he was definitely tagging Cejudo. No doubt about that. But it wasn't 100%. Maybe like 85, 95%. Like it wasn't 100% like DJ in the past. Maybe I was thinking maybe he's getting up there in age. I don't know, which is sad to say because, he's not that old, but he's been in the sport for a fucking long time.
He's only 31. That's not old in this sport.
No, but last time he wasn't champion, women weren't fighting in the UFC.
I'm not saying that you're wrong about that, but I'm also not saying that Henry Cejudo can walk away acting like he just took it to the old man. Again, he squeaked by.
Yeah. Now the question is, we'll go back to what I said earlier. Do you have a rematch?
At this point, why not? They have one victory over each other already, so it's kind of a stalemate, even though currently Cejudo is the one holding the belt. So, if you're going to say that DJ is the greatest of all time, which, since he had more title defenses than Anderson Silva did, some people will make that argument. But if he wants to make that argument, he should get at least one chance to get the belt back, which means a third fight. And if Cejudo beats him again, then Cejudo doesn't have to go, I'm not the real champion because I squeaked by on a split decision. If he goes back out there and he wins convincingly, then he's the definitive champion. And if Demetrius Johnson beats him, then he's the definitive champion. You don't want to just let this rest on a split decision when everybody's still debating the fight.
I'm just thinking with a knee injury, that's, 4 to 6 months?
Yeah, I bet DJ could be back by early 2019.
So let's see. Early 2019, super fight. I think we've got our co-main event.
Maybe. I would think that would be a deserved payday for the two of them to share a card with Brock.
That'd be the perfect. I mean, I can't think of a better fight right now that, you have to obviously rehab the knee injury, have that fixed up, and don't get wrecked in training. But I could think of a bet, like that's a really good 1-2 punch, and that would definitely give them early buy rate.
No,
but,
I don't think it helps the Lesnar buy rate, because whatever that pay-per-view is going to do solely on the strength of Lesnar versus Cormier. So that's not the issue. It's more like giving them a reward for hard work. It's like, you guys have had 2 fights. Here's the trilogy fight. It's the biggest one you've had so far. And DJ was our longest reigning champion before he lost. So here's a little performance bonus, as you will. You're getting onto one of the most bought pay-per-views of 2019. Here you go.
Now, I did mention the Brock Lesnar fight in early 2019. I do want to mention, while we're talking about it, Khabib Nurmagomedov's comments saying that he is picking Brock Lesnar to win 100%.
Well, of course he is. He's a wrestler. Brock's a wrestler. You do the math.
Yeah, I think it's too early to put predictions, and we've heard that Brock's been tested already 3 times, and he passed all 3.
Yep.
Because if he failed, we'd hear about it by now.
Oh, there's no doubt, because the results are being made public on a website.
Exactly. There's no hiding it.
Not anymore.
No, thank God for that. When I'm thinking about Khabib, I think he's got more things to worry about, like oh man.
He's ramping up that smack talk for Conor McGregor already. He's saying things like, I'm going to take you down 100 times in this fight, and I'm going to break you.
I said it last week. I don't think him teasing that he can beat him at any time in the fight and then having a 3-round hump fest in the middle of the cage isn't doing anybody any favors.
You mean 5-round hump fest?
Conor,
it's a 5-round main event.
Oh, fuck. Give him 2 extra rounds. Perfect.
Hey, guess what? You don't like it, and I know that. We've had the Ben Askren discussion, but I want to tell you something right here, right now. If Khabib Nurmagomedov can take Conor McGregor down for 5 straight rounds nonstop over and over again and impose his will on Conor, then I am going to love the fucking shit out of that fight. That is going to be so much fun to watch. Don't tell me you won't be entertained by how pissed off Conor McGregor and his entire team from Straight Blast are. They're going to get more and more upset the longer that fight goes. Tell me the crowd isn't just going to have a field day with that. You need to look at this from a sports entertainment perspective and not look at it as, oh, it's a boring hump fest. No! Think about the crowd dynamic. Think about the team dynamic. Think about the look on Conor's face that he's fucking pissed and he can't do shit.
I don't want this to be a sports entertainment fight. I want this to be an MMA fight.
Yeah, but I got news for you. Sometimes MMA turns into sports entertainment because this is sports entertainment unscripted. And they can't go out and write the script where Conor knocks him out in 9 seconds. That either happens or it doesn't. Just because it happened with Jose Aldo doesn't mean it's going to happen to Khabib.
I mean, leave my thoughts about Conor out of the equation. He's a talented fighter. I think that he has enough of a game plan in mind that he won't be pinned to the mat for 5 rounds. I think Conor has the skills to make this an entertaining fight. I don't think it's going to be a hump fest. I don't think it's going to be 100 takedowns in a fight.
I got news for you. It's not going to be a hump fest anyway, because when Khabib takes people down, he doesn't just lay on top of them until the timer runs out and the bell sounds and he goes back to his corner. When Khabib takes you down, he works you over. This is not a lay and pray guy. This is a, I'm going to take you down and I'm going to bust you up guy.
Do you think they tap gloves at the beginning of this fight?
Only if they're loaded with dynamite.
All right. Well, we've teased it long enough, Stevie. Let's talk this main event. Speaking of dynamite,
yeah,
Dillashaw
that's a
and
good
Garbrandt.
segue. Dillashaw blew up Cody Garbrandt. He couldn't do a damn thing about that knee or those punches.
No. I said on last week's show, it's going to be the same script as the first fight. And you're like, no. It's going to be different. How is it different, Stevie?
Hey, I said the definition of insanity was expecting the same thing and a different result. So I said it was entirely possible that it could go the exact same way. But I also said we don't know what Cody Garbrandt has done since that last fight between the two of them. You can't always determine future performance based on past results. If we could have determined that, then you would still have Demetrius Johnson as the flyweight champion of the world. So therein proves my point.
But also, it was the game plan by Dillashaw executed brilliantly. He got rocked early, it happens, but he caught Garbrandt again and capitalized.
Mm-hmm.
It was like wash, rinse, repeat. I'm like, didn't I see this already?
Again, don't know what to tell you, because if past performance was indicative of future performance, DJ would still be the champ. So I don't hold anything as a guarantee in this sport. Odds are just that. They're odds. They're not predictions. They're just indications that something could go one way or another. They are not definitive proof, because as you said yourself, it isn't sports entertainment.
How pissed off is Garbrandt after this fight?
Well, he definitely needs to rewrite the script now, because that's twice he's been taxed by Dillashaw, and it's kind of making that when he got over Dominic Cruz to win the title in the first place seem a little bit distant of a memory now. It's now starting to look like he's the second or third best guy in the division instead of the best guy, which is an unfortunate place to be if Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw are the two guys ahead of you.
Murderer's Row?
Yeah, it says to me that he's definitely not getting up back to the top in the near future.
No, but his next fight's going to have to be impressive.
Well, and now he's got the target on his back where anybody in that top 5 that wants to get to the champion is going to be looking at him going, fresh meat.
Oh, and I just got some breaking news from ESPN from Dana White's Contender Series. Greg Hardy has won his next fight in 17 seconds via knockout.
All right, well, that's the news from the Contenders, but let's get back to UFC 227.
All right, well, on this card there were a few, there were a lot of decisions, I'm not going to lie.
But at least on the main
that...
card, we got Renato Moicano submitting Cub Swanson in 5 seconds longer than it took Dillashaw to knock out Garbrandt, so that was a nice quick finish.
Yeah, Dillashaw, I just want to wrap that up. 4:10 first round. Moicano beat Swanson 4:15 first round with a rear naked choke. I'm not sure about Swanson. I thought he had I picked Moicano to win on MMA draws. I did, absolutely. I just didn't think Swanson would get beat in the first round.
No, Swanson is usually more durable than that.
But we've said this now, what? God, how many times have we said this in the past 6 months? You get caught in the first round with the choke, you're not as slippery. It's easier to sink it in. And
I think it also says something about the skill of Renato Moicano to dominate Cub Swanson that way. It's not just about being slick or not slick. I think it's more about how slick your jiu-jitsu is. And he is a black belt under Alex Licao, so you gotta give him the credit where he's due for being a master of his art.
And then we start the parade of decisions. 6 decisions in a row here.
Yep, Aldrich Viana, 29-28 and 29-28 and 29-27. Then we got Santos over Holland, 29-27 times 2 and 29-26. Munoz over Johns, 30-26, 29-28, 29-27. Judges just don't agree on anything here. The Ricky Simon Montel Jackson fight, 30-27 times 2 and 29-28. Then we got a split decision. Do you want to talk about this one? Ricardo Ramos and
I had Ramos winning. I'm okay with this one.
All right. And then we got Shayman Moraes over Matt Sales. This one, actually, the judges finally agreed on something. 29-28 across the board.
Alex Perez beat Jose Torres with a knockout in the first round at 3:36. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's other than one fight, the very first fight, which ended in the second round off a body shot. All the fights here were either a decision that went the distance or a first round finish. It's like night and day. We got like the polar opposites here. Either it's going to be done hard and fast or it's going the distance, one or the other.
Exactly. Nothing easy on this show. We did have Danielle Taylor losing by unanimous decision, though. I was kind of disappointed by that, but her opponent, Zhang, really brought it.
Yeah. I thought it was Zhang.
I felt bad because I like Taylor.
I thought it was Shane.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, you're right.
And the first fight I was talking about was Marlon Vera with the knockout punch to the body over Uji Burin.
And that got me excited because I saw that fight and I was like, ooh, and I'm like, this is the first fight I'm in for a long night of, decisions. Never mind.
Yeah, but didn't that punch remind you of a soul-stealing punch we saw just a little bit ago?
Oh, we're not going back there, are we?
Yeah, I saw a soul leave a body when Marlon Vera landed that shot.
I know, I disagree with you then, I disagree with you now. I still think that was an early stoppage. I think 5 more seconds would have been a big difference there.
Nope. The will was gone, the spirit was broken, the soul was no longer there.
Oh, jeez. All right,
you try getting hit in the liver like that and see if you got any fight left in you.
There's a reason I'm not a fighter.
Yeah, same here.
All right, so fight of the night, Judo and DJ, big surprise. Performance of the night went to Dillashaw and Moicano. Again, not a surprise. As far as news goes, we've got a few news notes here. November 24th, the UFC is debuting in Beijing, China.
That's right.
So, you're going to cover that live for the site, Stevie? I'm sure the time zone will be your friend on that one.
No, probably not.
All right, so we'll save the Bellator Grand Prix for last. There's some other news notes I want to get to first. Judo Dillashaw we already talked about. Oh, here's a question for you. Your thoughts on Frank Trigg as a referee?
He's been doing it for a while now. I saw him doing it at the fights for Bellator in Chicago when I was there, and he was doing it even before that. I think he does a fine job. He knows the rules better than most judges would and most referees would, and he can lay down the law because he can say, hey, I was a fighter. I know that's wrong. Don't do that.
Wasn't he a champion?
I think for Icon out of Hawaii he was.
Okay. I get a lot of respect from the fighters when I see him reffing the fights. And there's some referees, let's just say, don't get the same respect.
Yeah, well, there are some that get a lot of respect. For example, I would never mess with Big John McCarthy.
I wouldn't mess with Herb Dean.
Yeah, that too.
Okay, so I have this circled in my notes, Stevie. What's the update on Nate Diaz? And I think it involves Twitter again.
Well, let's just start with one of our favorite former champions, BJ Penn, his own MMA website, bjpenn.com. Nate Diaz is returning to face Dustin Poirier at UFC 230 in New York. It is the main event of that show, but let's just say that Diaz was not thrilled with this news. Quote on Twitter, pardon me for my French, I'm not fighting on that show. Fuck the UFC.
Yeah, it's not the first time he said that, is it?
No.
Won't be the last either.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I think.
Oh, it goes further. There's even more. I've got more for you. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Quote, they were bad-mouthing me, saying I was turning down fights all this time. I never turned down a fight in my life. And then they are backing the other guy when he has a lawsuit. But then I have a lawsuit, and it's just like Nate is turning down fights. Kiss my ass. Fuck the UFC. Fuck all this shit. If I feel like it, I'll fight, but they ain't gonna tell me what's what.
Wow. That's, And I know that the UFC 25-year press conference, that was the official announcement of Khabib and Conor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or was that the official announcement of... Yeah, that was the Conor announcement.
I believe that was at the UFC 227 25th anniversary press conference, yes.
Right, okay. Thiago Santos is thinking about going to 205 after a couple more fights at 185. Which I could see, but he's doing well at 185.
Yeah. I mean, he just beat Kevin Holland, so no shame in staying where you're at right now as long as you're on your winning ways and just want to fight on pay-per-view.
Now, I heard a report that GSP would fight the winner of Khabib and Conor. But
that's already been shot down.
Okay, but he was also asked if he would fight Nate Diaz or Silva. He shot those down.
Yeah, all of those possibilities are non-existent.
Yeah, but here in Canada, it's a different vibe than the States.
I'm not saying that he isn't a god there. I'm not saying he isn't a god to me. I'm just saying these cards don't add up to a straight flush. There's not
no point.
Yeah, there's no point.
Ricardo Ramos wants to fight Sean O'Malley.
Okay, sure.
I mean, I'd like to see it. I'm not sure it's a great fight for Ramos because I think O'Malley would win, but he wants to bite that. He wants to take that shot. Go for it.
Well, again, you just want a split decision. Maybe you should stay in your lane.
Yeah. This one's a little different here. Someone asked, I didn't get the reporter's name, but Dana White was asked at the press conference if there's any problems if Eddie Alvarez wants to go somewhere else to finish his career. And Dana White said, no problem. I don't think he's ever been a fan of Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah, I believe there's some degree of animosity. I don't know how severe, but I think Eddie Alvarez thinks highly of himself, and to some degree he should. But I think Dana White has always felt like he demands more than he's worth, and the two have never really seen eye to eye. That's just my impression. That's not a fact. That's just what I get from the little barbs like that.
Yeah. Now, there's a show in Denver coming up, and Benavidez is fighting Borg, but there's a rumored fight that's very interesting.
Well, stop.
Curtis Blades wants to fight Stipe Miocic on that card.
I was about to say, stop teasing it and say it, and you said it.
Yeah. Blades and Miocic. If Miocic accepts that fight, that's a fun fight. I like Blades.
Mm-hmm. And that's a huge chance for both men, because a win for Miocic puts him right back on the path to getting his title back, and a win for Blades vaults him over Miocic right to the number one spot.
I like it. I actually like it a lot. We talked about Khabib and Lesnar. We talked about DJ's LCL. We talked about the second round. Okay. So the Bellator Grand Prix, now all the Grand Prix fights are DAZN exclusive. So if there's a Grand Prix fight on the card, that card's on DAZN.
Mm-hmm. On the left side of the bracket, we start on September 29th, and that will be Douglas Lima and Andrei Koreshkov. Their potential opponent, the winner of that fight, will face the winner of this fight at a date and location to be determined. Paul Semtex Daly will fight Michael Venom Page.
Ooh, I love that fight.
Yeah, that's the Bad Blood Brewing fight, so that should be really fun to watch. Over on the right side of the bracket, we've got Jiu-Jitsu ace Neiman Gracie facing collegiate All-American wrestler Ed Ruth, undefeated so far, so that should be a really fun stylistic battle. And their potential opponent is the champion Rory McDonald or the former World Series of Fighting champion John Fitch.
Now, the interesting part about this tournament is that the title is on the line. So whoever the champion is, he's defending the title in the Grand Prix.
Indeed. That means that Rory McDonald is defending it against John Fitch, and then will defend it again against the winner of Ed Ruth and Neiman Gracie.
And there's also the alternate fight as well.
That's right. If necessary, if someone is unable to advance due to an injury, their replacement will either be Lorenz Larkin or Yaroslav Amosov, depending on who wins that fight.
That's a hell of an alternate fight, though.
Yeah, and some people were saying that it's kind of weird for both of these guys to not be in the tournament, considering that either one of them has more pro experience than Ed Ruth. But I feel like they've purposefully done that because they want a good alternate if they need one.
Is this the Fight Pass argument all over again?
Well, it's the Fight Pass's Grand Prix argument, I suppose. But yes, I would say this is exactly why you would do that, because you want to keep somebody in reserve that's good. You don't want to put two scrubs in a alternate fight. You want to put two guys that are worthy of stepping in as a replacement, because if one of them ends up going to the finals, you don't want people saying, well, look at this weak-ass fighter that got in here and fluked away to the win.
So Gracie versus Ruth. Ruth's undefeated. He could be undefeated and beat a Gracie at the same time.
It's possible, but then Neiman Gracie is just a beast when it comes to his ground game. He is slick as fucking hell. Pardon my language.
And I've made that joke before. A Gracie with good ground game? You don't say.
Right, but let's just be clear about this, though. Not every fighter ever with the Gracie name has been undefeated or been top-notch in mixed martial arts. A lot of them have been really good at jiu-jitsu and the Mundial Abu Dhabi championships, but that doesn't mean that they've all been great MMA fighters. And Neiman Gracie is 8-0 because he's a great MMA fighter. So, like I said before, it's wrestling versus jiu-jitsu, undefeated, who emerges. That's going to be a fun one to see.
I just want to know more of these dates. They haven't announced when they're going to be yet. The only one they did was the Lima fight. So
yeah, that's Bellator 206, September 29th.
I mean, it's going to be a great. There's no bad fight in this bracket.
No, and the potential second round matchups are all intriguing. Everything about this is good, and you know this is good because over at MMA Mania, if the Maniacs don't like something Bellator is doing, they are quick to be vocal about it. They will leave their comments and they will say so. But all the comments I've seen since I put up this post have been like, way to go. What a tournament. Card looks great. You've stacked it up. Look at the depth of talent they have. People are actually pleased with Bellator for this.
And think we've got the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix finishing up soon, too.
Yeah, we've got 2 fights in one weekend, and those 2 fights will determine the finalists.
That might be a long show. I'm just putting it out there right now.
Mm-hmm. That'll be a long weekend for me covering back-to-back nights of Bellator fights.
Now, what's on tap for Thursday night at AMP?
We're going to talk about G1. What do we always talk about this time of year? G1.
Well, that's true. But at least there's some good, last week was pretty tough. This week, a little bit better, and you can get the build up to SummerSlam as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about SummerSlam so much.
All right. Well, before I go, there is a wrestling question I wanted to ask you on the show. Is there any update on Aleister Black?
Last I heard, groin surgery.
Oh. For those who don't know, he tore his groin at a house show. He had surgery, and he's supposed to be in the main event at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn in 3 weeks.
That's not happening.
No, you don't wrestle with a torn groin. If he is in the match, expect him to be heavily taped up and have minimal contact, if that.
I'm just saying flat out, that's not happening. Not even taped up and medicated. They are not sending him out there. That is not happening, period.
10 years ago, maybe.
Even 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been a wise idea.
No, but we grew up in the Attitude Era.
No, I grew up in an era far older than that. I grew up in an era where you could still occasionally see guys like Luthez on television.
Oh, jeez. You're dating yourself again, boss.
I know, but it's the truth.
All right. Well, for Stevie J, I'm Peter H., the Hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening. As I always say, never leave it to the judges. Good night, everybody.
See ya!